Real quick, before we get into the show, I wanted to share a new service called Getita that Ken and I have been using that has made us over $10,000 in Amazon reimbursements. The service requires no monthly subscription, and Getita collects a small percentage of the money they recover for you. It takes less than 5 minutes to set up and works on all Amazon marketplaces. Go to Getita.com, Getida, and enter promo code FTM400. That's FTM for Firing the Man 400 to get your first $400 in reimbursements commission free. How much money does Amazon owe you?
Anytime someone's thinking about building their business out and growing it, there is that question of the shiny object syndrome of, do I stay the course on what I'm doing in Amazon? Am I maximizing that opportunity, those things? Or this sounds cool. Should I just jump over there and try it out? One of your actual listings to be the parent listing and everything else is the child. The impact is you can only run advertising on your parent. You can't run it on any of the child variation.
Welcome everyone to the Firing the Man podcast, a show for anyone who wants to be their own boss. If you sit in a cubicle every day and know you are capable of more, then join us. This show will help you build a business and grow your passive income streams in just a few short hours per day. And now your hosts, serial entrepreneurs David Schomer and Ken Wilson.
Welcome everyone to the Firing the Man podcast. On today's episode, we are joined by Ryan King. Ryan is a former pastor and has been in e-commerce for over 6 years. He is the co-founder and CEO of Blue Rise, a full-service agency focused on Walmart.com. As a brand owner and private label seller on Amazon.com, he partnered with multiple 7- and 8-figure sellers over the years to see brand growth on and off Amazon platforms. Seeing an emerging marketplace opportunity that Walmart presented, Ryan and his co-founder, Daniel, launched their agency in 2020 to help brands grow their revenues as they establish a strategic foothold on Walmart.com. We are excited to take a deep dive on what Walmart has to offer right now. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Great. Thank you, David. Thank you, Ken. Great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So first things first, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and I'm particularly interested in that transition from pastor to e-commerce professional.
Yeah. So that usually kind of raises a few eyebrows because people don't see the natural segue between the two. And granted, it's a little difficult in people's mind to make that jump. So for about 15 years full-time, I was in full-time ministry. And my particular area, I was doing a lot of things internationally with a focus on kind of engaging things around the world, engaging issues and working with people around the world that were kind of facing a lot of just daunting challenges. And so kind of how I'm wired, I see gaps, and I since learned that's kind of just an entrepreneurial type wiring in many ways. When I see gaps, trying to fix or come up with solutions. And so as we walked alongside different people, realized one of those major gaps was gainful employment, or getting kind of the financial flywheel going in a lot of places that would help people walk through whether it's issues of systemic poverty or other things like that. And so that was one of the things that started kind of a bit of a splinter in the mind for a while of thinking, what are some of the ways that nonprofits are doing a lot of great work here? What are some other ways to introduce some more systemic help in these ways? And so I looked around and as I thought through systems or models, I was seeing a few, but decided at the time, another friend of mine was already a little bit dabbling in the e-commerce side. This is back in 2014. And we got to talking and I decided I wanted to just hang a shingle out there, learn about the e-commerce space. I saw it as potentially one of those things that might be a model for helping around the world of it's a globalized economy, globalizing even more. It's virtual. All those things seemed like maybe good fits. And it seemed at that time, you can go back to Amazon in 2014, 2015, 2016 was kind of a sense of, well, there's not too many hurdles to cross to find a product, launch it, and maybe this is something to go. And we've all learned since then, it's gotten way more complicated than that. But that was the initial step, was starting my own private label brand. Did that back in 2016 and started that going. And I did that on the side. And I continued in my full-time role as well. And after fast forward up until 2020 was about the time realizing, okay, I think this is time to pivot and go full in here. And different people had different reasons for changing careers and making those shifts. For me, it was looking around and realizing a lot of what I got to participate in was really well built out. in the context I was in our local church and our local context, and had the itch to figure out what's this new challenge? How do we throw ourselves into something else and try and build out one of those models? So we started our agency kind of with the focus of how do we do this not only in producing profit and helping clients and doing those things, but also maybe how do we connect some dots even by identifying other populations, those places that we could, through what we do, help. So not just a giving of proceeds, but trying to strategically figure out how do we diversify our workforce in ways that are helpful in providing gainful employment. So it's a fun challenge. That's a lot of agenda items to put on one business. And so we recognize that, but it's been part of the fun of doing it.
Absolutely. There's a couple things in your answer that I want to circle back on. One was you're talking about gaps in employment. And that was something that Ken and I both kind of realized in our own lives, was that we had been working for the man for a very long time. There were some areas about working for the man that we did not enjoy. And so we decided to take on this initiative and start e-commerce companies and work towards firing the man. And so you'd also talked about that, the poverty piece. And that's something that I think, I grew up in a small town in Iowa, and there, in terms of like job opportunities, unless you were willing to commute very long ways, there was not a ton of jobs out there. And so the ability, I live in small town Missouri now and am able to make a good living participating in this global marketplace while still living the small town life, which I love. And so, yeah, it's really neat. So anyway, so as we said in the intro, we're here today to talk about Walmart.com and as a possible opportunity for sales channel expansion. And I can tell you, in our experience, sales channel expansion off of Amazon has been challenging. eBay, for one, we uploaded a bunch of listings and we're getting like 1 or 2 sales a month, and it wasn't worth it. Then we did Groupon. I got kicked off of Groupon because I didn't abide by their terms of service. I don't know why. And so when I hear sales channel expansion, I'm a little hesitant. Now let's talk about why Walmart may be different from some of these other sales channels and why you may think it would be a good option.
Yeah, so those are great points. And anytime someone's thinking about building their business out and growing it, there is that question of the shiny object syndrome of, do I stay the course on what I'm doing in Amazon? Am I maximizing that opportunity, those things? Or this sounds cool, should I just jump over there and try it out? And it can be a lot of sideways energy, like you explained. They're testing different markets and doing those things. I think one thing that sets Walmart as a maybe a unique opportunity in some ways is it's not an emerging marketplace. You may have already heard the term, the buzz out there, it's been thrown around, and I say it too sometimes, is Walmart is the Amazon of fill in the blank of what year was 5 to 10 years from now. And it's true in many ways. It's an emerging marketplace in those things. But the other thing that's pretty unique about Walmart is it's the world's largest retailer. And so while there are a lot of things they're figuring out still and emerging into this omni-channel side of things, doing the e-commerce play, they've had a few iterations of trying to do it with acquiring Jet back in the day and those kind of things. They're continuing to move forward, and they're a massive entity that's putting a lot of money behind this play. And so they're dedicated to growing market. There's so many signals of them doing it throughout their structures and even how they organize their teams and their retail strategy. So I think that, for one, kind of sets it apart as a different marketplace. But there's other things that set it apart as far as, or as a good opportunity for brands that are looking, because it's showing in the numbers. So they're still number 2 now as the second largest e-commerce entity behind Amazon. They've been tracking that direction, especially during COVID. It helped accelerate. And granted, they're still by the figures a distant number 2, but they gained over eBay and some others, while Amazon was giving away a bit of market share across the board. Walmart showing signals of growing. So they've been doing that. I think one thing is it's a gated marketplace, which might make it more of a challenge to some that are trying to sell. There's a challenge to some, but that challenge is an opportunity to others. And so, whereas someone trying to continue, that's fighting competition, Amazon, with their catalog, lower competition. There's lower search volume, but there's also lower competition. So for every seller on Amazon, there's 120 customers. For every seller on Walmart, there's 800. And so while it's a lower number of shoppers, the ratio is much better. And so if you can capture that volume, you're doing better. So there's that, and just the other opportunities that moats haven't been built as strongly around a lot of brands on the Walmart marketplace as well. So for those that are looking to expand, there's search volume there, search volume that's similar in many ways to Amazon search volume and there's lower bars of entry as far as competition go once you're on the marketplace. So for those who are willing to deal with the bumps along the road, it presents some opportunities.
Okay. Now, there was a phrase that you used there, gated. For our listeners, can you talk about what is a gated marketplace? What does that mean for purposes of becoming a Walmart.com?
Sure. Yeah. So you can't, basically what Walmart's looking for is they're looking for companies that have a proven, general rule of thumb is they're looking for proven ability to sell quality products and provide good customers. So maybe a rule of thumb would be if you've been in business for at least 6 months, better if it's been in business, if you've been in business for a year, if you're doing at least 500,000 annual revenue would be a good benchmark, those kind of things. And if you have a SKU assortment that is additive overall and somehow providing extra value to the marketplace, that's an arbitrary one, honestly. But if you have more than one product, if you have additional SKUs, you're going to provide meaningful contribution to shoppers on Walmart. And the other one is you have to be a U.S. based seller, or if you're an international seller, you have to have at least a U.S. So you have to have your W-9 or your W-8 to qualify to sell. I think there's one exception. They've been they just did a big push in the UK for sellers as well. But yeah, there's more gates around who can sell. On Amazon right now, just about anybody can sign up and start selling on the marketplace right now. So that's one thing that sets it apart.
Okay. Now, for those of our listeners that are looking at Walmart as a potential sales channel, do you have any advice on what tends to be a good fit? Is there a certain type of product or a certain type of brand that tends to be a better fit for Walmart than others?
Yeah, I think in our experience, sellers that are at least in the 6-figure range, somewhere in 6 figures on up into 7+ figures, typically sellers have been maturing on the Amazon marketplace. And at that point, as they've been squeezing the most juice out of Amazon and maturing there, that's the point at which they're thinking, I want to either for my own purposes, de-risk by getting additional revenue channels here, or just incremental sales lift by adding new channels. Or maybe they're thinking 12 to 18 months, even though aggregators have been cooling off in their acquisitions. A year ago, the big play was how quickly can I build this thing up, package it, and maybe sell it? That's a little bit of a longer play. It's still happening. But for those sellers who are looking to add that revenue, and add the channel revenue and thus de-risk their business and hopefully up their exit multiple, probably 12 to 18 months before they're looking to go. That's a good time to get onto another channel so they have time to do it and start maturing it as well. Let's see, what else? I think those that are just this gets into product mix maybe, but brands that are not maybe just hyper niched. So the example I would give is on Amazon, brands might have a reusable bamboo pour over coffee filter, and they may be selling them for $60. On Walmart, you're more likely to succeed with coffee filter. And so it's a different type of product mix that's succeeding currently on the marketplace and getting larger volumes. So either sellers that have a breadth of catalog where they can test what heroes are going to be different, or maybe they don't have the ultra premium offering. Those can do well. There's definitely outliers, and those are doing progressively better, but it's kind of those middle tier or lower cost type products that we're seeing a lot of.
Okay. Very good. Now, thinking about the Walmart.com shoppers, are they after the same types of products that people are after on Amazon? Yeah.
So like I was saying, I think Walmart has been for a long time, the brand of Walmart is low cost leader. And because it's a retail first kind of entity, it's existed as brick and mortar over the years and providing that promise. I think one of the effects has been the shoppers that are on marketplace. The majority of shoppers are still purchasing with that kind of ethos. You can imagine one helpful way to think of it might be that shoppers are probably prone to purchase online on Walmart.com, same kind of products they would find in the store. So if you're thinking, do my products make sense in the marketplace by and large? This is just a general rule of thumb. There's definitely exceptions to this, but imagining, would my product make sense on a shelf at Walmart? Does it fit with the type of assortment I'd be used to seeing? What types of categories would I usually go to a Walmart to purchase a product for? So things like sports and outdoor, garden patio, automotive, home, And all those are generally good performers on Walmart. Grocery is a standout one on Walmart. Anything CPG, replenishable, those kind of things is a high volume and where they've seen their largest growth on .com. And they're still going to be a little bit more price sensitive on Walmart. Now they're growing. The trends are showing that they're growing in convenience-based shopping. So that means higher price points over time. But yeah, that'd probably be a difference. Amazon shoppers, I think, are still used to saying, whatever I imagine, I can go to Amazon and probably find. Whereas Walmart shoppers are saying, instead of going into the store, can I get it online? And maybe that's one way that's helpful to think about the difference.
Absolutely. No, that's really helpful. So for our listeners that are thinking about getting started on Walmart, and let's assume that they've jumped through all the hula hoops in terms of getting ungated and getting their company registered and they're ready to start selling. What are some practical steps that they may take to find success on Walmart?
Yeah. So initially is application. And so you can you can do a quick Google search and go to Walmart Marketplace application and begin the application there. My big tip there is for a lot of sellers, you just have to pay attention to the process there. It's not super difficult to do, but you just need to make sure you pay attention to matching your documentation with what you fill out in the fields. What we hear quite often, is because that gating, Walmart has big scale, a lot of people trying to apply. So they have AI and bots working to try and filter that for them. Those bots are operating on a hair trigger. So one thing we see a lot is someone will apply and then almost immediate response is, hey, we've evaluated your application. You're not a fit for Walmart right now, and there's no opportunity for appeal at this time. And it seems very formal and cold sometimes, but in reality, it's likely triggered because maybe you misspelled your address and that was it. And so the challenge is from there, figuring out who do you talk to? Where's the recourse? And there's ways to follow up, but it's a challenge. So just get it right the first time when you're applying would be my biggest bit of advice there. From there, the practical steps are getting the acceptance, doing the follow-up, and doing the account setup. You've got several steps in there that there's a process to do. There's, if you're going to be seller fulfilled, there's shipping plans, those things to fill out, tax information you need to fill out, all those things. We recommend for majority of our supplier partners, brand partners to enroll immediately in WFS. It can take a while to get approved. That time frame adjusts over time, but it might only take 2 to 3 weeks. Application process might only take 2 to 3 weeks, could take longer based on what comes up. But we recommend Walmart Fulfillment Services, what I was referring to as WFS earlier, just because it overcomes a lot of obstacles in kind of sometimes the challenges of the platform with acknowledging orders, sending them out on time and those things. And it helps with ranking. So applying for that, and then also getting advertising prepared and set up, because that's another step that might take about 2 weeks or so to get approval to do those things.
Sounds good. And I definitely want to start the episode. Ken, did you have some?
Yeah, real quick. Ryan, so there was a metric that you mentioned earlier that I wanted to circle back to. You had mentioned, I think Amazon was like 100 people per product and Walmart was like 800 shoppers per product. Is correct?
It was a comparison of monthly shops to sellers on the platform. So based off the figures of Amazon, about 310 million worldwide, Walmart's around 150,000 sellers, and Amazon's around 2.5 million sellers. So a ratio of sellers to customers monthly.
Okay, excellent. So yeah, that is a huge opportunity and way less competition selling on Walmart versus Amazon. Pretty staggering statistic.
Yeah. And they're growing. They're adding thousands, at least probably 1,000 sellers a month or so on the Walmart side. So it's changing. That eventually that'll be more normalized to Amazon, but certainly presents the opportunity. Yeah.
Very good. Now, go ahead, Ken.
My follow-up question is on that piece. Since Walmart I think David likes to refer to Walmart as the 800-pound gorilla in the room. And so I think everybody, as a seller, like it would be wonderful to get into brick and mortar. So what, is option? Is that happening? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So that is definitely a unique opportunity with Walmart as compared to Amazon. So, what we've seen, I'll share some signals we see to that end. So one thing I didn't share at the beginning is we currently service e-commerce brands that are migrating over to Walmart and we manage over there, but we also worked with aggregators as well as retail brands. So Walmart, what they've done is basically they've gone omni-channel in their approach. That's the language they're using, and it's just standard in the industry. But they have actually merged their retail and e-commerce teams functionally. And so what we see is when we've sat in, even in line reviews with retail brands that already have brick and mortar distribution, these buyers, when they're coming up biannually and they're sitting down, one of the questions the buyers are asking repeatedly, consistently is, can you show us your .com performance? They care about the listings. They care about the sales volume, those things. And it's part now materially with those retail suppliers of the discussion and its impact on, will they get extra store counts in distribution or not? And so, or will they get extra products added in? So we see the signal on that side that Walmart cares about the .com side, even with existing supplier relationships. We've seen with suppliers that we've introduced and worked with on the .com side, the opportunity in talking with category directors on the e-commerce side, where the conversation has led to, as sales start to grow, an ask of, would you like to be introduced to a Walmart buyer to start a conversation? And so we've had those introductions and those connections as well. And then the other signal I think was a big telling one this year is Walmart does what they call open call every year. And they just did it a little over a month ago. And so they do a nationwide call for US based manufacturers to basically come to Arkansas and do basically a shark type pitch competition. And so for those that are selected to come in, they pitch and then they get an opportunity to potentially win an offer from a retail buyer there. And so what's notable this year was the first round of that open call was exclusive to Walmart Marketplace sellers. So before they went nationwide with the call, they first rolled that out to any seller on Walmart.com Marketplace. So they're actively showing the signals of saying, let's connect those dots in that conversation between what we're seeing online and what's happening there. I mean, and you can think of it, to use a baseball analogy, if a team has their farm system, their AAA leagues or whatever it is, they're seeing what's happening. They have nationwide statistics of where the demand is. They can start figuring out, where would we run a trial? Which stores are probably going to be the best performers for this? And they're de-risking their placement of that coveted shelf space in store by leveraging online data. So that's all. Like it's probably going to be 1% or less of the products available that makes sense, because you're going to be likely displacing something else. So you got to be prepared to show performance. You got to have retail ready packaging. You got to do all those things. And I think one of the things is, so suppliers need to think through, one of the biggest obstacles for suppliers going into retail distribution is, do they have the capital at the ready to scale up if that purchase order comes through? But if for those that are starting to put those ducks in a row and figure that out and want to have those conversations, even in advance of what would it look like and how do I plan that direction, those conversations are beginning now and in various ways. So it is exciting for those that want to put that type of channel in their business plan.
Absolutely. Yeah. We would love to, I would refer to that as a golden ticket, is to get invited into Walmart brick and mortar. And that's an interesting program that you had mentioned. So would have that been something that we would have had to register for? Or would have that been something that would have been
So that would have come up, I think, in a lot of the seller accounts we work with, that came up on when you log into Seller Center, there pops up that you have to click out of sometimes. And that probably would have popped up as one of those, just kind of an open call notice and with a link to register. So there's a way to apply for that. And then you follow the subsequent steps through that process. So it's not an invite only to apply necessarily. There is kind of the nationwide call as well. So people, when they know it's happening, anybody can go and register and apply to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. So in the brands that you've worked with, what are some challenges that they're facing on Walmart.com?
Yeah, great way to phrase it. I think challenges is the right positive spin on these things. I think Walmart, they're massive. And they're dedicating a lot of resource to growing these things. But at scale, there's always issues and challenges. And so some of that presents itself in the actual interface and the UI of trying to sell. There's less tools available that are developed specifically for the Walmart Marketplace. So sellers are having to focus more on going directly through self-serve option in the Seller Center rather than relying on secondary tools. There are several out there, which is good news. But the interface is in uploading content, uploading spec sheets. It can be a hit or miss. You put in a spec sheet to upload something and it may go through and it may work or it may not. And you may get feedback in the act feed that it did, or it may not show up in the act feed that it went through. And so you have a little bit of grit and a little bit of brute force. I see Ken smiling over there. It looks like he's done the same. So those things exist. Those challenges exist. one thing that's presently a bigger challenge on the Walmart is the issue of content ranking right now. So trying to update fields and do things for different listings and those fields are often locked, and that happens a lot more often on Walmart than it would elsewhere. And that's some side effects, unintentional, sometimes on the Walmart side with the different bots they have that are trying to curate quality of listings, those things. And so there's ways to get around it, but it just takes a lot of time and patience. Right now, the seller support is a bit of a gamble when you kind of reach out to them as to whether or not you get something helpful at the moment. Again, they're scaling up, trying to train a lot of staff. So we had one where we had an item that was 4 different listings. It was basically color variations, but they weren't variations of each other on the listings. All got suppressed for a content error issue that was not true. We sent 4 separate tickets, all with the same information. Got 4 separate responses within 24 hours, and none of which of those 4 separate responses were accurate to the issue. So you're going to get those kind of things on the system as well. And I think the other challenge, I'd say beyond just kind of, I'm picking on the system there a bit, but beyond that, it's just different. It's different than Amazon. So for a lot of sellers, if they're looking just to do a quick fix of push their content over, put a lot of hooks in the water, not do much work extra unique to the Walmart marketplace, and hopefully get some nibbles, they're not optimizing uniquely for that marketplace. And so Walmart has different criteria about title length, description, bullets. A lot of Amazon sellers don't fill out their back-end attributes on listings. And we know this because one of the ways we work with sellers is to get the category listing report from Amazon to get all the back-end attributes if we can to fill it out. And usually those are largely blank. And because it's not necessary on Amazon as much as it is Walmart, but it is fundamental. And so if someone on Walmart is sleeping on that and not filling out back-end attributes, they might have the wrong product type. I could go into the weeds with you if you wanted, but the product type and fit and its effect on discoverability for search terms is huge. And that's determined by title, description. It's determined by your back-end attributes, all those things. And you just might effectively not be showing for any of the valuable search terms because you just didn't completely fill out your attributes. So there's just the broader point there is the challenge of how do they allocate their time? A lot of these sellers saying, okay, I'd like to expand, but I can't just double my team and the attention I pay to 2 separate marketplaces. So how do I efficiently optimize for a secondary marketplace and really maximize the opportunity is a bigger one. I'd say the bright side would be there's opportunity, which is if many people are just throwing their stuff over on the marketplace and not paying attention, for those who do, and those are willing to do things like fill out the attributes, optimize specifically for what Walmart's looking for. They gave you a quantifiable score for listing quality. And if you're at 80% listing quality, Walmart gives you a small rank boost, not huge, bigger rank boost if you use WF. And then if you do advertising, the average cost per click on Walmart right now is around 80 cents compared to $1.24 on Amazon. And so you're getting cheaper advertising. So if you're looking at your total advertising cost of sale across the board for your brand, every sale is probably going to be much more cost efficient, therefore more profitable on Walmart. And so we'd say for Walmart, 4 to 12% of revenues, maybe what a maturing brand on Amazon might expect on the Walmart side, 4 to 12% of what they're seeing on Amazon revenues right now. But if you look at it more at contribution margin, what is the profit per sale? Each of those sales goes up in value because of lower cost of sale there.
Sorry to interrupt the episode. You may have heard Ken and I talking recently about a new tool that we're using for Amazon refunds. Now, I have used other refund tools like this. However, I can tell you in the first 7 days, they scrubbed the back end of my Amazon account going back 18 months and found $5,000 of refunds. And the nice thing about this is it's my money. Amazon made a mistake and they are just auditing my account. The other thing I really like about this tool is there is no monthly fee. They only charge a commission if they are successful in getting you your money. Go to Getida.com, Getida, and enter promo code FTM for Firing the Man, FTM400. This is an awesome tool. Can't say enough good things about it. Now, back to the episode. A huge piece of that's advertising, and I want to dive into that. That's been something that we've been internally working on getting right-sized. And it has been our experience that just the method at which advertising is done on Walmart has changed. They most recently are on a new bidding system. And so for people that are engaged or will soon be engaging in Walmart advertising? Any suggestions for how to attack it?
Yeah. So you're back in June. They rolled over finally from a first bid auction to second bid auction. So before June, it was quick. It was easy to lose your shirt on bids because if you bid a $55 to find the ceiling, the next closest bid is 50 cents. Walmart was happy to take the $5 for that. And you might still only get placement number 40 for that $5. That's adjusted now. So it's more like you would expect on an Amazon bidding system. And there was about a 30% drop in cost per click as a result. So it got cheaper as a result. There's limited opportunities. The other thing that changed was in the past before June, those that have any experience with Walmart's system or might already be on it and might not be aware. Prior to June, if you won position 1, or let's say you won position 1 sponsored and you were already organically position 5, you would lose your organic positioning in favor of your sponsored position. So you could as a result, only show up one time on Search Grid. And so there's the additional complexity of, should I even run ads on this product if it's already organically? Do I need to turn it on and turn it off and watch for it so I'm not wasting ad spend, all that kind of stuff? That's changed now to be more like Amazon as well, where you actually can gain further real estate by gaining sponsored placement. So that's also good. Those are the normal things you might expect. See on Walmart is still relatively limited on what you can do. You could basically, the options as a third-party marketplace seller right now, the options are limited to, can you do a sponsored product placements, which is Search Grid, some carousels and the search results below a buy box on a product detail page, or a carousel or two on the product detail page. And that's really your options. And you're going to be using either automatic or manual campaigns. We recommend both. That'd be one tip. Automatic campaigns have more placement options than manual. Does not qualify for all those positions I mentioned, mainly Search Grid and a couple carousels. So running both simultaneously is one. And now I'd say because that's changed in June, there's a lot of brands out there that might not have changed their bidding strategy. So now's the time to really try and ramp up bids to see if you can find the ceiling of where those bids are, why others have been cautious, and because they were burned previously by the first bid auction. They may be bidding very conservatively, and now's the opportunity to flip it on its head and bid more aggressively over them. If you're in a competitive space where there's traditional CPG brands, you think Unilever, Procter & Gamble, those big brand names, one opportunity would be to look at, if you have the functionality, a capability to do some day parting with bids, those kind of things, or timing when you're pausing or making your campaigns active, making them active later in the day when some of these less sophisticated ones that are just allocating a daily spend, are running out of their ad budgets. Maybe you can capture some share from them later in the day if they're not getting more sophisticated. Those would be some of the opportunities that I would see there. One note would be differences in how variations interact on Walmart versus Amazon. So on Walmart, if you have variations, you have to pick one of your actual listings to be the parent listing and everything else is the child. The impact is you can only run advertising on your parent. You can't run it on any of the child variations. So it's something to consider when you're trying to figure out how much real estate share of shelf you want to gain in your product mix. And it is a factor in figuring out your strategy of, if you're trying to conserve ad spend, consolidate them all under one parent and just bid on the one that's your highest converter and hopefully get the cross sell across variations. Or if you're really wanting to dominate and you have more ad budget and you're saying you're going to run ads across multiple variations, and you need to keep them separate so that they're all servable on it. I could probably keep going a little bit and geeking out on that, but I'll take a breath and see if you guys have any questions there.
No, that's really helpful. And I know a lot of so we were just talking about variations, and I know a lot of our listeners will have, say, like a 2-pack, 4-pack, and 8-pack, right? Same product, right, but just you get more of them, right? What would be your suggestion on handling a situation like that in terms of, like, for advertising, assigning a parent in advertising?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I hate to give it almost as a political answer, but it depends. I think that the question is, what's the goal? Are you really trying to get aggressive and get exposure in an early stage? Or you kind of already hit that and you're trying to optimize for profitability? But, some general rules of thumb would be considering which pack size, if purchased, if it's a 2-pack, versus, I'd say often what we see is like a 1-pack and then a 2-pack. And the real question is, man, if I run advertising on my 1-pack, I don't have a whole lot of margin on that conversion. I'm cutting into more of my margin on that if I'm advertising that one and not getting as much conversion, versus if I advertise a 2-pack or a larger quantity count where I have a higher price point, I have more advertising margin to run and be aggressive on bids if I get purchases on that unit. And so that's something to consider, is which one's giving you more advertising margin, maybe, if you're going to get conversion on that one. That's one thing to look at. I think in general, obviously, normal practice is if you can get the low cost one visible, and then with the potential for upsell into the larger packs, that's kind of the classic strategy. And so if you're willing to have a low cost leader that's kind of a little bit on the front end in order to hopefully get the cross sell, upsell into the higher packs where you're going to get more margin, we've seen others be successful with that as well. So yeah, it's hard to give a targeted strategy without some of the context there, but
yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Ken, anything else you want to dive into?
I think Ryan shared a ton of stuff on. I would just say, Ryan, like, if you can give the audience your top 3 tips or tricks in all of Walmart, what you've seen successful sellers doing or what you've shared with your clients.
Yeah, I was just thinking about some of these. I think some of the top ones that people should need to be aware of is thinking through product type. So this goes into the weeds a little bit, but it's important. So if you go onto the account and you're already selling, you're in there. And if you're wondering, am I showing up on the right search terms? Go to growth opportunities in your seller account. Under growth opportunities, you'll see a dashboard for each listing. Once you click on them, in the middle is a little widget that says product type. That product type is automatically determined by the algorithm, and often it miscategorizes it or slightly gets it off. But it's really important. That product type determines the attributes that you're going to be filling out on the back end. And it also determines what search terms you pass through for. So that'd be one to look at. And it's really key. And I think a lot of people just don't see the connections between the two because there's not a lot of material about that one. That's a big, I would say, let's see, another tip or trick, reviews, big one. This could be a whole topic in and of itself. But one of the big opportunities on Walmart right now, and obviously reviews is a really touchy subject, especially in the Walmart circles and all the attention, those things. Walmart has pathways to do incentivized reviews that are fully white. So Bazaar Voice has their Spark reviewer program that'd be like Vine Voice for Amazon. There's another one out there called Field Agent. If you go to fieldagent.net, we don't have any kind of incentive to recommend it other than we recommend them a lot. They're really good. They're often a lower cost provider for this. And you can do the purchase online, leave a review online. It's white hat. It shows up as incentivized review on the listing. It's about $15 per review per product, plus the cost of reimbursement of the product. But that's a good one, good way to get reviews if you need them. Overall review counts are much lower on Walmart than they are on Amazon. So one good comparison I use a lot is Bluetooth earbuds on Amazon. You look that up and you're going to see listings all over page 1 with 40,000 reviews or more. You look that same search up on Walmart right now, we're talking 400 to 1,000, maybe 1,400 reviews at the top in that general range. And so that, if you draw that down into other categories, you can see real quick, 20 reviews is going to get you pretty far. And if you can get more reviews, even better. A couple of things for people, if they have reviews, this is an opportunity right now for sellers. If they're already D2C through Shopify as well as Amazon, and if you have reviews on your own D2C site, if you're using Bazaar Voice or Yotpo for hosting, they have within their own systems ways to syndicate those reviews directly over to Walmart. And it may already be in your contract. And if you don't know it already, you can just ask and see if you're on one of those services. If you're not on either of those services, Walmart has a process where you as a brand can apply through Walmart to have reviews bulk uploaded for free via CSV from your site to Walmart. And so there's some qualifications around that. Obviously, Walmart wants real reviews. They want to make sure, I mean, you're dealing with federal regulations at this point, so you're not doing fake reviews. But if they're legit and you have all those, that's a great opportunity. And that's a great way right now to start building the moat around products. So that'd be another big tip. I could try and think of another one real quick if we've got time, or if that's good, it's up to you guys here.
Yeah, we got plenty of time if you got another hot tip. These are awesome.
Man, okay, let me think about one more. Let's see. I had this in my head and it's escaped me, so I'm trying to recover it real quick. What else would I do? I would just, definitely maximize the advertising. I think the one other one would be try and identify people behind the process. And so this one of the things we do is identifying category managers or category directors every chance because they can open up additional opportunities. If you start doing volume on Walmart, or if you've done meaningful volume on Amazon, there's opportunities to get additional features turned on your account. So 2 other things I'll mention. You can do, without getting extra things turned on your account, badges on listings. There's a reduced price badge and there's a clearance badge. Those are those are updated through a promotional spec upload sheet. And Walmart is in the middle of kind of clarifying what previous price meant versus what you're promoting down to. But if you're discounting 10% or more from your previous price, then you can be awarded a reduced price badge or clearance. Doesn't have to discount deeper for clearance or anything. You just pick one or the other and you set a time frame on it, what you're doing there, and you'll be awarded that price badge. Walmart, I think, is moving towards, if your price is lower that you're doing in that promo than 30 out of the last 90 days, whatever that price is, then you get a strike-through price and the reduced price or clearance price badge. So that's a great tip. And that one's already on every account. Those are just the criteria you have to fulfill. Getting a pro seller badge would be another one. There's criteria at account level. There's four basic criteria, maybe 3. Sorry, I'm just throwing out a lot of numbers right now, so I'm tripping myself up. But they're simply there in the growth opportunity as well, and you'll see which ones they are. Pro seller badge is incremental lift and conversion. When you have that, increases trust. But if you talk to personnel, this is the last one I'll say. If you talk to personnel, if you get in touch with somebody, there are seasonal campaigns you can apply for, and it would show up in your menu items on your growth opportunities page. Seasonal campaigns, which are back to school or something like that. And you'll see, you'll get a feed of which ones are coming up, what the application deadline is, what the criteria for each are. You can apply for them, and they're just discount driven. You don't pay for them. You don't do anything else. You plan a discount around that. You submit, and if you get approved, you're included in it. Now, there's a lot, it's still kind of opaque of what the impact is. Where do they get displayed? How does it get sent out through email or anything else? But it's still advantageous to do. And the other one you can get turned on is what they call flash picks, and that's their version of lightning deals. And so you can qualify for those as well based on discount. So there's a lot of opportunities like that if you're doing everything else right. I think the first thing I'd recommend, the biggest tip would be get your quality score above 95%. If you do that and you're doing your blocking, tackling, you got advertising going, and you're showing sales volume. Walmart also, the last thing, I'm sorry, I'm giving like 6 or 7. I'm going all over the place here. Fire sale on tips. If you drive offsite traffic where you can. Walmart doesn't have attribution links right now, probably won't have for the next year or two, but still Walmart's optimizing for Google. And so that gives us real strong hint. They love Google traffic and they love other offsite traffic. If you can drive offsite traffic to purchase and make conversions and click through to listings, that's a huge help for your listings and a huge driver for relevancy and ranking. So as you're doing that, if you're doing all that, if you've got optimized 95% or higher, if you've got the reviews on the listings and a decent number, if you're showing sales volume, when you talk to the people behind the process at Walmart, you get potential other opportunities presented to you. And that puts you on the best possible footing. There's a lot of retail suppliers right now that are struggling with even getting to that quality score. They're struggling even getting a couple of reviews on their listing, all those things. So it's an opportunity right now to disrupt. So I'll get off the soapbox, but those are a few of the quick tips I'd give there.
These are wonderful. I have just a sheet of notes over here. I'm sure Ken does as well. So thank you so much for those. Before we get into the fire round, can you tell us about Blue Rise, what you guys do and what customers you serve?
Yeah, absolutely. So we service e-commerce brands, 6-7-figure e-commerce brands and above, aggregators, retail brands. We work with different retail broker groups as well. And really what we can do to boil it down, what we do is basically we specialize in doing the heavy lifting for brands as we partner with them. Understanding often the 80-20 means focusing on maybe Amazon as their channel, or if they're in retail, that play. And we come alongside and partner and say, we'll apply our deep knowledge and our expertise to Walmart. We'll partner with you and manage that for you. So basically everything other than original image creation or original copywriting we'll do. So listing, we'll guide through the application process, guide through listing setup and optimization, advertising management, strategy consulting, and assisting in implementation of offsite strategies, all those things kind of A to Z as we partner with brands. So that's kind of a description of what we do. And if they want to get in touch with us, they can reach out to us anybody can reach out to us through connect@bluerise.com. It's BLUERYSE.com. And we're doing a summer special right now, end of summer special, which is if anybody signs up before September 22nd and signs up with us before then, we'll give them 20% off the first 3 months of service. And so you can definitely do that. If you get in touch with us, you can find me on LinkedIn or via email or through our website, bluerise.com. And be sure to mention Firing the Man podcast when you do reach out, and we can get you that deal.
Awesome. And to all of our listeners that are driving, keep driving, keep your eyes on the road. We're going to post links to all that in the show notes. So, all right, let's get into the fire round. Are you ready?
I don't know. We'll see.
All right. What is your favorite?
I'd probably say it's come back to mind more recently. Citizen Soldiers by Ambrose. Just great book, kind of looking at how did the U.S. ramp up operations from ordinary people to answer the urgent need during World War II. How did they turn ordinary men and women into this machine that was able to build up so quickly? So that idea of the capacity of anybody to do some amazing stuff was just a fascinating study. So it's a great book.
Awesome. I'm going to add that onto my reading list. What are your hobbies?
I've got 3 kids. So my hobbies are now largely their hobbies, and they're all 8, well, almost 10 and under now. And so do a lot of playing Monopoly. When I have time to myself, it's building stuff. So not the fine woodworking stuff, but building a bench or a table or anything with square edges mainly.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. What is one thing you do not miss about working for the man?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing was this is maybe a cop-out answer. I don't miss commuting. I don't miss having to sit in the car back and forth. Those things, it's the advantage of working from home. And maybe a flip side of it, one thing I'm loving, that I still had some opportunity back then to do, but loving even more is all the new creative challenges. Everything else is just kind of every day is a new creative challenge to figure out how do we build something new and do something different. And so, yeah, that's one of the things I love. And so maybe to put it in the way you phrase that question, I don't miss not having as many creative challenges. There's that, fulfill that answer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. And finally, what do you think sets apart successful e-commerce entrepreneurs from those who give up, fail, or never get started?
Oh, man. Well, I'd say optimism and persistence. If they never got started, they didn't have the optimism to try and give it a shot, and any entrepreneur's going to fail. It's just kind of, do you keep going even as you keep failing a little bit? So I'd say the persistence is really key there as well. Yeah, those are probably the first 2 things come to my mind.
Awesome. Well, very nice. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on the Firing the Man podcast. And thank you for all these hot tips on Walmart. And to our audience, if you're interested in getting into Walmart and would like some help, check out all the links that we posted in the show notes and get in touch with Ryan from bluerise.com. So thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to today's Firing the Man podcast. If you like this episode, head on over to firingtheman.com and check out our resource library for exclusive Firing the Man discounts on popular e-commerce subscription services. That is firingtheman.com/resource. You can also find a comprehensive library of over 50 books that Ken and I have read in the last few years that have made a meaningful impact on our business. For that, head on over to www.firingtheman.com/library. Lastly, check us out on social media at Firing the Man and on YouTube at Firing the Man for exclusive content. This is David Schomer.
And Ken Wilson.
We're out. Before you go, we wanted to share a new service that Ken and I have been using called Getita that has made us over $10,000 in Amazon reimbursements. The service requires no monthly subscription, and Getita collects a small percentage of the money they recover for you. It takes less than 5 minutes to set up and works on all Amazon marketplaces. Go to Getita.com, Getida.com, and enter promo code FTM400. That's FTM for Firing the Man 400 to get your first $400 in reimbursements commission free. How much money does Amazon owe you?